Alright, let's talk about plant reproduction. You can have asexual reproduction. It's like cloning. You can actually grab parts of a plant and stick it in the ground, and the plant will grow. Cool. Um, there's some benefits. You can reproduce very quickly, but the problem is everyone is a clone. So I can make 100 plants from one plant, but every plant's the same. So if you get a germ, or you have an infection, or you have some kind of chemical pollutant, they will kill all the plants. That's why sexual reproduction is better than natural variation. For example, you need a male and a female, but they're different plants normally. Um, and what happens with this is just like our class, everyone is different. So if something gets me sick, it may or may not get you sick. I have different genes, different genetic background. It is slower though. You have to be careful with sexual reproduction because some plants have male and female parts. And if they self-pollinate, that means they have sex with themselves. What happens is you get a lot of defects because when you have sex within your family line, your mutations come out. That's why a lot of societies don't like to have brothers and sisters having children, because when you are similar genetically, your genes bring out the bad genes. Every gene has two parts, and so it's random. So you never want to mate within your family line. Anyway, off topic. The plant life cycle. You have mosses and ferns. They're non-flowering plants. They have motile swimming sperm, believe it or not. So they release sperm. They normally have to be wet. Mosses, ferns, and these types of plants, especially mosses, because they're really small. They don't have a lot of vascular tissue to move water up and down the plant. So yeah, when you have swimming sperm in mosses, ferns, other plants like that, you need to have a wet environment so that the sperm can travel from one plant to the other plant. And this imposes limits because the plants have to be very close to each other. You get some very similar plants mating with each other. So these are non-flowering plants. They don't have flowers, they don't have fruits. They're your mosses and ferns. Here's a moss life cycle. Oh, a lot of words, a lot of words, a lot of words. Important words. You have a sporophyte, 2N, diploid. That means you've had an egg and a sperm come together to make a spore, and the spore has grown up. So let's start with the zygote. The zygote starts here, and then it blossoms into a young sporophyte and has different parts like calyptra, seta, etc. And you have sporangious tissue in the operculum. And all this basically means is you have a zygote that grows up into a plant. It may or may not. It will be a diploid plant, meaning it has male and female parts. 2N means diploid. Now, on the gametocyte side of it, one side, go to where you see fertilization. You have your egg, you have the archegonium, and you have the antheridium. They love these names. But think female egg, arche, like an arc, so it receives. Antheridium is like male because it gives. And what happens, you see happening is the egg is one side of it, and the male part, they come together, they'll form the zygote. But they can also go to this peristome. It starts here. It will release a male bud. So imagine that you throw your sperm on the ground and it grows. Or you throw your egg on the ground and it grows. That's what they mean by gametophyte. Phyte means plant. So in the male gametophyte, the sperm goes on the ground, actually grows to a bud, which means the antheridium, and it releases the sperm. The egg spore grows into a bud, forms roots, which is a rhizoid, and this protonemata releases the female receiving portion of the plant. So step back. The moss has two stages. It has a male It has a sperm stage and an egg stage, which are haploid, one end, only one set of chromosomes. And the male can grow into a bud called the antheridium. The female can grow into a female bud called the archegonium. They release sperm that travels, but it has to be wet. So the sperm travels from antheridium to the egg, and it forms a zygote. And once the zygote is formed, it grows into a sporophyte plant, which is actually like us, male sperm and egg together. And then the whole cycle repeats. And that's what they mean by life cycle of sperm. That's why you see plants have a sporophyte generation and gametophyte. It's a very common name. They use it for most plants and even mosses and funguses also. When you see gametophyte, it means gametes like sperm and egg. That's a lot of information. Flowers have different parts. Your stamen, anther, filament, your carpel, stigma, style, ovary. The ovary, the carpel is the female parts, the stamen is the male parts. Stamen, men, okay? Sepals are like the leaves. The ovary is where the female part of the plant. Incomplete flowers. Complete flowers mean they have both female, they have all parts. And that means they have all male parts or all female parts. They're perfect flowers. They have all male and female parts. Grass flowers are incomplete. They're usually imperfect. They have separate male and female parts. Yeah, so when you see grass outside growing in the yard, you normally have a male grass and a female grass. A tulip is complete. It has all parts and they're perfect. They have male and female parts. Imperfect flowers. So now we move on to the life cycle of an angiosperm or a flowering plant. You have the sporophyte again, and it releases microspores and tube cells, the sperm cells. It'll come on to the pollen and go down the pollen tube and has sex. Oh my God. Or you have a megaspore, which is the female part, which has the embryo sac, etc. And it goes, and once they form the pollen tube and the sperm comes down the pollen tube, then you have a female plant. You have a plant maturing. So start with a flower, release a microspore, which is male, release a megaspore, which is female. They come together, form a pollen tube. The sperm goes down the pollen tube to the ovary, and then you have a flowering plant forming. Then you have a fruit. Yay. Double fertilization. Pollination occurs when the pollen grain lands on the stigma of a carpel. That's the part of the female plant. The pollen grain's on top. It comes down the tube, and you have two ovaries. And the pollen tube actually grows through the style of the carpel to the ovary. The tube cell nucleus travels to the tip of the tubule, and the two sperm follow closely behind. One sperm fuses with the central cell, one sperm with the egg cell. That's why it's called double fertilization. You have two things happening at one time. Whoa, that's crazy. And then the flower will become the fruit. Yay! Ovary wall is a flesh, ovary is a pepper seed, and oval is a seed. So all that fruit you've been eating, yeah, it's the sexual parts of the plant. Within the fertilized oval, you have integuments, diploid, central cell, zygote. It goes on to form the seed coat, the endosperm around the embryo. Endosperm is like the yolk of the egg, and that's the early development of the seed. Later, it forms a shoot. You have embryonic leaves, hypocotyl, the seed coat. The cotyledon is still like the yolk of the seed. It's a bean seed, it's a dicot. It has two cotyledons. We'll talk about that. This is what we're going to try to do in our lab. We're going to try to make the bean grow into a root. There's your cotyledon growing out, forms leaves. There's your hypocotyl. And then what happens, eventually the cotyledon dies. So the seed comes in, the cotyledon provides nourishment, and then the seed coat is open, and then the cotyledon starts to branch out, The hypocotyl forms the root. Then you have your leaves from the epicotyl. And then eventually cotyledons, which is the yolk, giving it all the nourishment, dies out. Whoa, it's a lot of information. So play this again, go through this PowerPoint if you need help, and ask me questions.